Hello there, I'm your host Ventusius, and today I'll tell you what's worth doing in the first week of patch 11.2. If you enjoy me maxing your character and climbing faster than others, this video is definitely for you. Additionally, you can count on some sections having a special symbol for the so-called sweats, which I'll be notifying by giving it an Old Spice certificate. Those will be things that aren't extremely worth your time, as they usually don't give a huge boost, but are still worth doing if you want to be as prepared as possible for the new season. And if you're in a hurry, you'll find at the very end a quick summary of the most important things to do in order of priority, so feel free to go to that part if that's all you care about. However, I'll appreciate if you don't forget to hit that like button in the process of skipping this video, or maybe even throwing a sub if you do enjoy my work. Let's begin. Old Spice certificate. If you want to be sweaty from the very first minute of the patch, before doing anything else, grab the reputation buff from the Dark Moonfarer carousel, as it should be available. You can even do this before logging out right before the patch drops, as the buff should stay when you log back in. The first thing I recommend after logging in is completing the new campaign. Chapters 1 through 3 will be available, so just follow the campaign quests marked by exclamation points with rectangular backgrounds. This is important not just for the story, but also because it unlocks the new cloak, the Reshi wraps, which will be this season's artifact to upgrade. Obtaining this ethereal secret artifact unlocks new systems like phase diving, which is the ability to transform your character into some form of energy using ethereal tricks. Shifting into this other dimension lets you see entirely new quests, mobs, and interact with special elements found in the remnants of Karesh. This is pretty important because without phase diving you won't be able to enter the new raid, Manaforge Omega, as having it equipped is mandatory, especially since some encounters will have you use it. Choosing your fiber socket, a one-time process to pick which secondary stat your artifact cloak will provide. Tailors will craft these sockets for you through the order system, but don't worry about the cost, they're practically free in terms of materials. In the first week, only one Reshi wrap talent point will be available, with more coming in future resets by earning a special warbound currency called Ethereal Strands. Don't worry though, this won't be a grind, as points will drop from any content, whether that is killing a random boss or winning a simple battleground. Each new talent point not only unlocks optional perks, like detecting special treasures or earning ethereal transmogs while phase diving, but also slightly increases your cloak's item level. As mentioned before, these points are warbound, so upgrading your artifact on one character does it for basically all of them at the same time. After completing all quests in a short phase diving tutorial, your cloak should be at item level 701. Karesh Trust is this season's new renown, and you'll earn reputation with it through the campaign, daily or side quests, world quests in the open world of Karesh, killing rare mobs in the open world, finding forgotten ethereal lore books in Karesh, with some of them being hidden in the diving dimension, as well as the weekly dungeon rep quest from Dornogal, as it has been updated and can now grant you reputation with the Karesh Trust as a choice of reward. You can also buy a contract created by the inscription profession, sold on the auction house for up to plus 15 rep per ward quest. That's not exactly huge, but still worth mentioning. If you're actually feeling turbo sweaty, you can grind all Kazalgar ward quests for those plus 15 rep gains, but this honestly feels like next level degeneracy. Please note that the inscription contract recipe requires Renowned 5 with Karesh Trust, so they won't be available on the auction house immediately. That's technically a golden opportunity for sweaty scribes to make bank before the market floods. For the sweats, Renown 18 with the Karesh Trust unlocks an infinite augment rune, which gives plus 733 main stat. It does however cost 100,000 gold. Do note that hour-long persisting through death runes drop from an optional raid boss in the raid as a reward from an upcoming raid renown, but we'll get back to that next week. When talking about the open world, everything you do in it drops new crests and valor stones, as well as items ranging from item level 642 to 678, which are the new explorer and adventurer item upgrade tracks. These won't beat upgraded mythic gear from last season, but if you don't have those items, you can go for it. Old weeklies and pinnacle caches like the Theater and Isle of Dorn will still grant up to 4 restored coffer keys per reset for the upcoming bountiful delves in the week 1 of season 3, which is going to be next reset, and this is definitely worth doing now. Additionally, in Karesh you'll find a new type of herbs and ores for gatherers, and although new Karesh materials aren't needed for new crafts like the previously mentioned contracts, they can be bartered with NPCs for old Kazalgar materials. Please do note that their exchange rate fluctuated during the PTR, so it is unclear if that was intentional and will remain that way, as it could shake up the prices of goods on the market. Since this time around, the world boss is available in the pre-season, it's very much worth getting him down, as he drops a guaranteed war-bound champion item of item level 688, upgradable up to 704. Do note that since the item is a war-bound guaranteed, the armor type is random, meaning that, for example, a cloth user can drop a leather item. The drop itself is limited to 1 per warbound, so don't bother trying to get them on 5 different characters. Unlike Season 2, this time around, weekly vault credits start right now in the pre-season, which means that you can and probably should fill it before Season 3 begins on August 12th or 13th, depending on where you are. Since Mythic Plus keys and raids aren't available yet, you should focus on what's actually available, meaning doing the new Mythic 0 dungeons and delves which have had their tiers reset. You'll want to particularly focus on those if you want to get the best weekly vault available. Let's dive into details. On patch day, all delves will be reset to tier 3, but your brand level stays the same. In order to get back to tier 8 or maybe even 11, you'll have to progress step by step again. Gear and vault rewards only scale up to tier 8, while tiers 9 to 11 give heroic and mythic crests known as ruined or gilded, but it is unconfirmed if those will drop this reset. So if you don't care about ruined or gilded crests from delves, since you plan on getting them from raids, dungeons or even PvP, you can skip higher tiers of delves than 8, but for you Old Spice certified players, you already know you'll push to tier 11 anyway. To max out your vault in the first week, aim to do 8 tier 8 delves, as this will give you a choice of 1 of 3 hero track items in your next week's vault. Additionally, you can also farm 2000 Undermine coins while you're at it in order to buy a Shrieking Quartz for next week, as this item will allow you to summon the new delve nemesis ky'veza, who you may or may not recall from Nerebar Palace, as defeating her will grant you a Delver's Bounty hero track map, but we'll get back to that next week. Contrary to Season 2 of The War Within, this first week will have Mythic 0 dungeons available to us, meaning dungeons that you should enter manually on your own, just like Mythic Plus keys, but on the Mythic difficulty. Bosses in those dungeons drop champion level items, so a normal raid equivalent piece from every boss, meaning that on average, a Mythic 0 dungeon drops more gear than the usual 2 pieces of loot per Mythic Keystone run. The new season pool of Season 3 dungeons include the Spider Hell of the Holy Church of Aspuling, Ecodome Netherstorm, the Halls of Why Did You Pull This, the Glitch Breaker, and finally, Operation Bubbles. The Mecha Dungeon on hard mode, Tazavesh, will not be available this week, as every boss there drops hero track items, so they decided to push it back for season start. Please do note, these dungeons have a weekly lockout, meaning that you can only do them once for loot. What does this mean for us? Well, if you're extra, you should try running them with same armor type friends in order to share loot between you, as while everybody should be needing most items, especially since new champion track trinkets could be extremely valuable, it could happen that, for example, 3 pair of leather pants drop, so might as well trade with each other for maximum gain. Additionally, even post lockout, you can or should repeat 2 more M0s for extra vault choices, because since Tazavesh isn't available this week, you'll be locked at 6 out of 8 dungeons done for the max vault option, meaning that you'll need to run 2 more M0 dungeons to fill it out. Keep in mind that vault choices from M0 dungeons are 4 out of 8 items from the champion track, which are in general worse items than the one available from delves, as those are hero items 1 out of 6. Having said that, set items should be available to drop from the weekly vault, so obtaining a champion track set piece from the M0 choice would likely be a better option than a hero track off piece from the delves, and by maximizing vault slots, you increase your chances of opening a set piece on day 1. This will come down to what you feel works best for you. If the full spark happens to be available week 1, I highly recommend not using it until after your season 3 vault opens next week. The same idea goes for the catalyst charges, which turn items into tier pieces, but we'll get back to that next week. Let's start with a quick pro tip. If your character happens to be new, is an alt, or maybe simply did not claim those rewards previously but have them available, Renown with past factions like the Council of Dornagal allows you to instantly claim all the rewards which are updated for Season 3, which means easy access to lots of crests, Valor Stones, Delve Keys and more. What's even better is that these rewards ignore the weekly crest cap. What does it mean? Believe me, somewhere out there, don't ask me where, you will find absolute degen level sweatlords who purposely played a new clone of their main in Season 2 just to do this on day 1 of Season 3. Generally speaking, as long as your character is below item level 680, the fastest way to gear up this week is by queuing random heroic dungeons, as doing them with a random dungeon tool makes them have no lockout, and they drop Adventurer 665 4 out of 8 gear, which is upgradable to 678 with weathered crests. Just be aware that they require a minimum of item level 649 to queue, something you might not have if you're either coming back to the game or starting a fresh new character. In that case, I recommend first doing the new Karash storyline for gear catch-up and picking up the Titan Disc Belt from Delves, which should be enough. You can also go into a heroic dungeon the same way you do a Mythic 0, which is manually, as it bypasses the item level requirement, but doing so incurs a daily loot lockout on that specific dungeon. This method, by the way, is still valuable to do even if you're geared up, as if you're looking for a particular gear piece that you didn't get from M0s, but would still equip an adventurer version of it, you should go for it and maybe help a friend or a fresh player along the way. What about crest upgrades, you ask? Feel free to use weathered and carved crests, which are the ones you find in LFR and normal raid level difficulty, to upgrade your gear in week 1. If you somehow get a hold of heroic ruined crests or even gilded ones, I recommend saving them for vault gear or crafted items with a new spark. You can also freely craft 675 items using 30 weathered crests each. These are cheap to make and max cost, as their recipe doesn't require a spark nor the same materials as spark crafts. Lastly, if you want to be you can try to cap your 2000 Valor Stone limit by the end of the week, as those will be very useful once the season launches next week. Enough talking, let's recap things you should do this week in order of priority. Complete the campaign in order to obtain your Reshi Wraps artifact. Run all the 6 new M0s with an armor stacked group if possible. Unlock those to tier 8 or up to 11 if you're after those rewards. Fill your vault as much as you can, knowing that 8 times tier 8 delves and 8 times Mythic 0 is the best one you can get this week. If applicable, gear up via heroic dungeons and 675 cheap crafts using weathered crests. Optionally, grind the Karash Trust Renown for whatever rewards you might be after. And that's basically it. Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see my upcoming raid guides, which features some cool artwork drawings as well as additional tips and guidance for tanks and healers, coming later this week. Otherwise, I hope to see you in another video next week. Goodbye.